I love seeing how the itineraries come to life. I am the first to admit sometimes I don't know what it's going to become until I go do the research. So that's the best part, doing the research and finding out different things and avenues and presenting it to the client and seeing them shine when they go on their trips. And then just getting the referrals back and saying, the client saying, I had a great time. I cannot believe that you planned this out for me. I did not know this was possible.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Kristen, one of the good doctors of Abbey Research, and you are very, very welcome to this edition of Welcome to My World. Abbey Research operates on the principle that curiosity can change the world because it's the only thing that really ever has, to be honest, because we all change our minds through stories and relationships. And there's something in every person's life that if we all understood just a little bit better, our lives would be richer. And so that's what this entire series is about. Spending a little bit of time with somebody who has a different life than us, which is everybody, learning a little bit about that life and seeing the world through their eyes for at least a couple minutes. So today I am very, very excited to be joined by Katiana Jolimeau, who goes by KJ. So that's what I will be referring to from now on, who is a travel agent traveling. So obviously we have a lot of synchronicity. And she is the owner of Trips Travel Agency, which she started back in 2012 in Arlington, Virginia. After spending a whole lot of years in the financial industry, travel has become her second career, and we're going to get into that. She specializes in international destinations, sporting events, and behind the scenes access, which don't we all want that? That sounds rad. Fluent in English and Haitian Creole, working knowledge of French and Spanish. Obviously, I just need to take her traveling with me so that she can speak to people since all I've got on that list is Spanish and just a little bit of French. And there's a lot, she has a Facebook community that we'll link to in the show notes as well, so that you can ask her the questions that I am about to as well. KJ, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So much fun to talk to a fellow traveler. So the financial industry and a professional traveler feel pretty different. So what was the thing that made you take the leap to change careers?
You know, what made me take the leap is, first of all, I was doing them both at the same time at one
Oh,
point. So finally, I just got really bored with financial services. I felt like I had reached the pinnacle of my career at that point. I had been doing it for many, many years. There was really nowhere to kind of go within that, grow within that industry for me. And but at the same time, travel was pretty new. Travel I had never done before, besides traveling myself. There was so much more to learn about the industry, and the industry is so vast. I mean, there are different parts of this industry that I haven't even begin to scratch the surface off. And I've been doing it at this point just as long as I was doing financial services. So what made me decide to take the leap at that point is like, hey, go learn something new. It's time to kind of like, leave your safe space. I've always been a firm believer that, when you get comfortable, you don't grow. And I think that's one of the things. I decided to like, hey, let's go grow and do something new and learn something new and challenge yourself. And that really is what made me take the leap to do it full time and become the full time traveler at one point.
I love that. And then to then open up your own agency to be able to help other people do that. What's your favorite part of that job?
My favorite part of doing that is one, creating the itineraries. I love seeing how the itineraries come to life. I am the first to admit sometimes I don't know what it's going to become until I go do the research. So That's the best part, doing the research and finding out different things and avenues and presenting it to the client and seeing them shine when they go on their trips. And then just getting the referrals back and saying, the client saying, I had a great time. I cannot believe that you planned this out for me. I did not know this was possible. So that's one of my favorite things. Planning out the itineraries has been, you know, just just exciting and life changing and interesting and eye opening and challenging at the same time.
I love that because I have a couple of friends who are travel agents, and they say similar things, that this is a real joy of planning. And I think a lot of us perceive um, that, like, I think sometimes that, like, having a travel agent is a thing we can't afford. And
Mhm.
what I think the response is from some other folks, and I'd love to hear if this is yours, is like, but you also can't afford not to use an agent because you guys understand some of these places better than any of us ever would. Is that kind of be your response?
That would kind of be my response. You know, I would always say, can you afford to lose out on your funds after you've booked this trip? Can you afford the time spent, on the line, trying to get recoup money or change something? And I'll tell you, case in point is during the pandemic. I'm not really sure if we're out of the pandemic right now or in whatever part of the pandemic. Let's say the early beginnings of the pandemic, right? March 2020, February 2020. This is the point where everything is being canceled
Mhm.
worldwide. I'll ask you, Kristen, do you know how long the average hold time was to get your cancellation on the phone?
My
It's a,
mom was trying to cancel a flight with American Airlines, and I think she sat on it for 7.5 hours.
that is correct. That
Okay.
is correct. 7.5 hours, worldwide airlines. That is how long it took. There are some airlines that did not even take the phone calls. Their lines were so behind that they couldn't even like pick up the phone call. So this call just dropped for several days. Um, so that as an agent, I was the person online with my clients. My clients did not have to worry. They
Mm.
simply just said, "Hey, I need to cancel this. Let me know what our best options are." Some of our clients, I had one client that had like a $93,000 villa in Italy. It's first, as we've learned in 2020, it's first come, first serve, because a lot of agencies, a lot of companies went out of business in 2020. So if you weren't there to get your money back, you were never going to get your money back. And we were thankfully able to get that money back first come, first served, right? Lily airline cancellations, we got their funds back. We held onto that line for 7 hours. And it's not just one client, it's multiple clients that I was doing this for. So 2020 is definitely shows why you need to have an agent, why you need to have someone on your side working for you. Yeah.
Oh my
In the
gosh. Yeah. I like all of my travel at that point was business travel. And so that was so I outsourced my sitting on the phone to my mother. But it gosh, like I didn't even think about the fact that you like it was first come first serve for refunds before businesses went belly up. Like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Man.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's not just the travel industry, it's everywhere that anything that involve like, wedding planners, hotels. Um, I think that at that point in time, no one really had a, stipulation in case there's a pandemic,
No, I don't
and
think any of us had insurance coverage for that. I think, yeah, yeah.
no inkling. And I think now the industry is like, okay, well, especially the airlines, especially the US airlines, I would say, we need to provide a provision for this
Mm.
because if there's a worldwide pandemic again, we don't want angry clients. We wanna we wanna be able to, provide funds for cancellations in dire times. And I think the pandemic was one of the most dire times. So yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it would be, I mean, like nuclear war would probably be more dire, but I don't know if we're like anything, it was a lot. It
It
was a
was
lot.
it was a lot.
So switching gears a little bit, I'd love to talk about why you love traveling. So just as an entity, can you talk me through some of the reasons that you love it?
Okay. I love traveling because, again, one, it's a challenge, and There's so many things out there beyond my city, my four walls, my community that you don't really get to know unless you get to go out there and see the world. Um, Case in point, I always say, when I'm in the US, I think my mindset is more coming from like a Haitian American mindset, cultural background.
Okay.
Uh, When I am overseas, you can definitely see that I'm an American. And that's just because of what I'm looking for. Like I think in one of the things that's really interesting in the US, and I'll just say like a little quirk is that I love ketchup. I love ketchup. I love lots of sugar and like all my food. And I remember going to France one year and I ordered coffee, simple coffee, cream, and sugar. And one of the things that they had given me was like one stick of sugar. And I'm like, this is not enough for my cup of coffee, you know? like, and the lady looked at us. I was like, you guys need all this sugar? I was like, oh, this is not usual in France. Or even like ketchup. A lot of places you like ketchup and mayonnaise. And I'm like, I don't eat mayonnaise, you know? It's just not something that I do, but just the thinking as well, and you learn it from like the way that you learn Spanish. Like I had to learn Spanish. Just the way people say things is a different mentality than what you would say in the US, or like in American English, I would say. And of course English itself is
It's
English
so varietal. Yeah, I tell the story all the time of that when I first moved to Northern Ireland, they told me that I wasn't going to have a language barrier at all because it was
is.
English. And then the first day somebody asked me if I wanted to dander to the garage to get notes out of the hole in the wall. And I just like blinked a bunch of times and I was like, sure. Like I didn't know what it meant. So we get there and it means you want to get money out of the ATM. Like,
Are you serious?
yeah.
Oh my god, you see what I'm saying? You see? I I I'll give you another case and an example is when I was traveling from France and I was going through the UK on British Airways. And this was right after the underwear bomber, I think
Oh
it was.
gosh. Okay. So like 2007.
Yeah, 2007, 2008-ish, something like
Yeah.
that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. And at that point in time, because right now we all know that when you're flying from a foreign country, they have like a section for US flights for
Yep.
the secondary screening, right? At the time, they were just starting that. And this entire section of Heathrow was just dedicated to US flights. And I had gone to shops around, like, I had gone shopping
Yeah.
around all the shops at the in the airport, and I got this perfume from Harrods, loved it, whatnot. And here I am strolling in, and I watch a lot of British comedy, a lot of British shows. And the lady was like, "Hey, ma'am, do you have any shop items?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have lots of shop items." I hold up my bag, like this is the stuff I got from the shops because everything around here is shops. Oh my gosh, the woman gave me this look, and it was like, "I've got them." Like I've got someone who admitted that they have these dangerous items. Apparently, she meant, "Do I have any sharp items?" No clue. I was like, "Oh my gosh, no, I do not have sharp items. I have a perfume and I have a lotion that I bought from Harrods. That is what I have items from the shop, not actually sharp items." And she had a laugh about it, but I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like,
It's like visions of KJ and Heathrow jail. Like,
yes. Yes. I almost did not make my flight. And I was like, and she was so funny. She was like, "Oh yeah, no worries. I totally understand. She's Bangladeshi and she's speaking a British accent." And I'm like, "I really didn't understand what you meant." So it was a good laugh. It was a good laugh. After we got over that, we're like, okay, good, good. But like you said, you just don't know these cultural differences. You just don't know what the world's outside your door unless you go and travel. And that really was what made me decide, hey, I want to be in this industry. Get to know people, see a different side of the world. Um, Experience different cuisines. I love cuisines. I love food. I'm a big foodie. I love learning how to cook different cuisines. And if you ever speak to my mom would be like, my mom would tell you, this girl has all the spices from all the world. So my mom's a person's like, I don't know what you do with half the stuff, but in my cupboard, there's a lot of spices from everywhere in the world. Because I don't just make American dishes or Haitian dishes. I have whole cookbooks where I focus on
us
a
too.
cuisine from the part of the world. So it is that is exactly why I entered this industry and why I travel a lot.
Yeah, my husband and I went to Japan for his 40th,
Mhm.
and he has since become obsessed with making our own ramen. Um,
Mhm.
and we were at a family member's house a couple days ago, and he was saying like, "Oh, you don't have to do the 75-cent ramen from the dollar store anymore. It's really easy." And he's like, blah, 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 like about making dashi, and I was like, "It's not easy, honey. It's easy for you." Like, it's not easy to somebody. It was adorable. But yeah, we have Scandinavian cookbooks, and we also have spices from and like sometimes even sauce packets. Like I'll go we were in I think we were in I think we were in France. We were in France for our anniversary when we lived over in the UK. And we found this like coq au vin sauce that was like like a spice mix and a little bit of liquid, and then we had to add a bottle of red wine. And since then, I've started to like buy it in bulk from eBay because I
Oh.
love it so much. So it's one, like, yeah, everywhere we go, we order our Norwegian chocolate that we love from eBay.
Mhm.
God bless eBay, because I really wish we could all get international ingredients a lot better, because eating is one of the best parts of traveling for sure.
I've never done eBay. I
Yep.
always look for the international stores. So when I came back to Boston, during the pandemic, I actually found that they had an H Mart, which
H Mart is like,
exactly. It
yep,
is only, I think it's only 1 or 2 stores in Massachusetts,
nice.
whereas
Okay.
in Virginia, you have, like I think you have, like, about 10 stores in Virginia. So I always go to, like, the different H Marts because each one of them has, like, a different
Just a little
restaurant.
bit. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, all my Korean food, I can get it from here."
Yeah.
And I love it. So yeah,
Yeah, honestly, so it's like I get his pot noodles from the UK, because my husband grew up in the UK, and he
that's it.
really misses chicken and mushroom pot noodles. So there's
Oh,
people that will go to the grocery store for you in the UK and mail cases over.
I love
The Norwegian chocolate, I've gotten Marks and Spencer's Percy Pigs, I've gotten Danish cookies, I've gotten
oh,
Korean cookies. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna have to check out eBay from now on.
It's a little bit dangerous, uh,
Okay,
but
okay.
also wonderful. Now, that's all international though. What about traveling within the US? Do you do that as well?
I do. So lately, I've been traveling up to Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay.
I actually discovered Newport, Rhode Island during the pandemic. It was one of the first places I can go to when quarantine was kind of lifted up in, I want to say May
Okay.
2020. Um, so I discovered it in the social distancing. And to be fair, I never went to Rhode Island for anything beyond Providence. So going to Newport, I was like, oh, this is new, eye opening. It's not my favorite spot. Uh, been up to New Hampshire. Again, I never really went to New Hampshire for anything other than like the theme parks. If you're in New England, New Hampshire's like really big in theme parks just because of open land and stuff like that. I discovered pumpkin picking and the orchard. So I've been going through this. I did a lot of staycations during the quarantine. And in the US, I would say my favorite spots would have to be, have you ever been to St. Michael's, Maryland? It has a great inn. It was actually the inn used in, oh my gosh, there was a movie. I think there was a movie where, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. I'll have to come back to you on that one. But there was a movie where they crashed the wedding. I think it was Wedding Crashers. That it was actually in that movie. Very nice inn at Perry Cabin. Very nice resort. Peaceful. It's right on the water. You can go sailing if you want to, or do like this sailing program as well. So I definitely love that area. I love Beverly Hills out in LA. They're my favorite hotel out there, the Viceroy in Beverly Hills. I think I think that I really like that area because being a New Englander and an East Coast gal, I've always had these visions of LA and California just being like really hot and just being like this one thing after seeing it so long on TV. And let me tell you, LA is not hot all the time, as I discovered. It's sunny. There's a reason why I tell you it's sunny. It's very bright and sunny, but it's not hot. But it's just a different atmosphere. And I like going out to LA because LA has all these different like Koreatown, Tokyo Town. I haven't found good Filipino food yet there, but I'm really excited to try it when I go back there again. And just like all these little nice restaurants and places in general are in LA, so I like that. Texas, I'm trying to discover more in Texas. I go where the food is. So
Totally
Texas has
fair.
really good barbecue in Texas.
There.
Actually gonna do like a Texas barbecue type of trip as well. So I really am big on those places for the most part. But of course, the 50 states, there's so many things to see in
So
50 states
much.
that I'm gonna rediscover throughout the years. And little by little migrate away from the East Coast because I think out west and Midwest is places I haven't been out to yet for the most part. Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. I lived in Texas for 5 years.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I learned very quickly is barbecue. And I was in Central Texas, so it was interesting. Yeah, food's the best. I'm wondering now, like when you have first time clients who maybe haven't traveled that much,
Mhm.
besides like make sure to pack well and some things like that. Is there any overall advice you would give to kind of hesitant travelers?
Well, it depends. I would say normally my hesitant trials are ones that are going international for the first time.
Okay.
And it also depends on what type of hesitance that they have. One is language barrier is one of the biggest things. A lot of when you work with a travel agent, a lot of the things I'm using, a lot of the suppliers that I'm using and vendors I'm using are vendors and suppliers that work with English speakers for the most part. Of course, they're not going to have an American accent. They may have a British accent. They may not have, they may have their own accent, of course, but they know how to speak English and kind of help guide you around the different areas. Then there are hotels that are more geared to English speaking tourists because that's all they receive for the most part. Of course, they receive like for other foreign nationals and whatnot, but they can their what do you call it? Their employees can speak with English speakers on a regular basis. Um, and I say that because sometimes you may book something online and it looks great, the pricing looks great, but guess what? You may be one out of the English speaker that they get on a regular basis. Some hotels, some resorts are just usually catered to the the tourists that come from within the country.
Mm.
And they may not speak English all the time, so they don't have the practice. So here you are at a hotel, yeah, it looked great on paper and the price was right, and you cannot communicate any of your concerns to anyone for the most part. Google Translate does do a good job depending on what language it is. I would say Google Translate does not translate everything, every language correctly, but it kind of helps you get going. So it does kind of help in that way. And then when clients talk about how comfortable they're going to feel in a different country, for the most part, I always tell clients that, going elsewhere, visiting different places, you should always one, first of all, have your guards up essentially. And I always say have guards up because you do not want to think that a lot of people think that because they're on a vacation, they can put their wallet and their cell phones anywhere, you know? No, you cannot put your wallet down anywhere you feel just because you're on a resort and you feel like everything is safe. It is safe in general, but
Like, don't be an
with
idiot.
exactly,
People are people everywhere. So it's one of the
exactly.
things I used to help take college students into immersion trips to Kenya. And one
Mhm,
of the things we told them all the time was like, it's 2009 here too.
mhm,
Like it's life here. People live life here. This isn't a
exactly,
vacation for everybody. So like
exactly,
remember that. Yeah.
yeah. Even when you go to France, one of the things I'll never forget at the Eiffel Tower, they tell you
Oh, it's
beware.
the worst. We almost got pickpocketed 3 times the Eiffel Tower and twice on the French subway. It was actually the worst place for pickpocketing I've ever been. I'll tell you is Barcelona.
Really?
The worst
Oh,
place. And my business partner got her wallet lifted. And so
oh,
we got to know the Spanish police. And let me tell you, my Spanish improved real quick out of an emergency. I was like, okay, here we go. Which was funny because my Spanish is Mexican Spanish and not Spain Spanish.
mhm,
So that
I
was that
understand
was a
it.
that was a funny dialect problem. But yeah, she got her wallet lifted right out of her purse while we were in Barcelona.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Happened to my dad in Italy.
Yep.
We told him we did a trip from France, Spain, to Italy, and we told him, "Hey, you should really put your wallet not in your back pants like your back pocket like you do in the U.S. Put it in your front pocket. That way you kind of you have your hand right there."
Yeah,
He
like
did.
you shouldn't do that in any crowds. Like I tell that to people the first time they're going to come to New York. And they're like, oh, New York's so dangerous. It's like, no, there's just a million people. Like,
Mhm.
so put your stuff to where it can't be easy access to anybody else. It isn't actually rocket science. Yeah.
Exactly. He was so upset when he got off that train, and it was near the Vatican City, and he realized he had been pickpocketed. Thankfully, and this is during the time where, there is online banking. There's not really WhatsApp or texting at this point that's free messaging or anything like that. I had to make a long distance phone call back to the bank and cancel his debit cards. His license was gone. So
Yep.
that I was like, this is something, it is, we told you it was gonna happen. It can happen. So you're right. It's be careful everywhere you go, essentially. So yeah, that would be my tip to most of my clients, essentially. And I tell them, hey, you know, be on the lookout, have a great time, but do not lose your senses, I would say.
I think that's a great way to end, not only for travel advice, but for life advice. Have a great time. Don't lose yourself. And
Exactly.
you can you can be a tourist in your local area most of the time. Most of us don't do the fun things that around us. And as well when you go to foreign places. So KJ, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you
This
for having
was so much fun. Oh my gosh, I love talking travel stories.
me.
So, pals, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up. I know it may seem lame, but the YouTube algorithm is obsessed with it. So please do it. And if you love these kind of conversations, the good news is that we have a ton more on this channel. So hit subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss anything. The Good Doctors are committed to bringing you life stories and culture analysis so that you can understand the world a little bit better. And like I said, we can all be deeper and better humans, because figuring out how to human is a full-time job. So let's figure it out together. So again, I want to thank my guest KJ for joining me. I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time on Welcome to My World.